Have you ever felt like there's a pattern hiding in plain sight? Some kind of connection between government secrets, the biggest tech companies in the world, and maybe even the nature of reality itself? Well, today we're pulling on a thread that ties all three of those things together.
Okay, let's really dig into this question for a second. Because the answer isn't just about some wacky patents. This one sentence, buried deep in official documents, is like a loose thread on a sweater. And when you pull it, the whole thing starts to unravel, revealing a hidden system that's been operating for decades.
So, our story really kicks off with a bunch of super bizarre patents filed by a Navy aerospace engineer named Dr. Salvatore Pais. And just to be clear, these weren't some science fiction fan theories. These were official United States Navy patent filings.
And get this, look at what these patents were for. We're not talking about a slightly better engine here. We're talking about reducing an object's mass, creating gravitational waves whenever you want, and, oh yeah, a space-time modification weapon. I'm not making that up. According to the Navy's own documents, this thing could make a hydrogen bomb look like a firecracker.
So, what do you think the budget was to test this revolutionary, world-altering physics? Billions? Hundreds of millions? Nope, just over $500,000.
That's not even a rounding error in the Pentagon's budget. It's basically nothing. And, surprise, surprise, the official conclusion after 3 years was that the Pais effect couldn't be proven. Most of the patents were just allowed to expire. So that's it, right? Case closed? Not even close.
Okay, this is where the official story just falls apart. After this massive public failure, Dr. Pais wasn't fired, he wasn't sidelined. He was moved into programs that were more sensitive, not less. First to Navy Strategic Systems, then the Air Force, and finally, the Space Force. That is not what you do with someone whose work is supposedly debunked, especially when you see who is secretly working on the exact same stuff.
And this table just lays it all out, plain as day. Every single impossible concept from the PACE patents, the ones publicly dismissed as junk science, it maps directly to heavily funded, highly classified programs at the Defense Intelligence Agency and DARPA. So, what was called pseudoscience in public was an absolute strategic priority behind closed doors.
Now let's zoom out a bit, because this pattern of saying one thing in public while doing the exact opposite in private, well, it's not a one-off. It's actually a key part of a system that's been running for decades, a system that helped create one of the most powerful companies on the planet.
You see, the intelligence community didn't just stumble upon Google. They literally funded the research that made it possible. Through a program called Massive Digital Data Systems, the CIA and NSA got quarterly progress reports on a brand new search engine from a couple of Stanford students. And get this, the very same month as their final briefing with the agency, those students incorporated a little company called Google.
And then things got even more direct. The CIA created its own official venture capital firm, InQtel. And one of its very first strategic investments went into a little satellite imagery company called Keyhole. That investment was going to set the stage for something much, much bigger.
And there it is. Google bought Keyhole. The CIA's venture arm got shares in Google, and Keyhole's military-grade surveillance tool was repackaged for you and me as Google Earth. So the agency that helped build the foundation for Google literally became a shareholder in it.
And this right here shows you the playbook in action, a public promise followed by a quiet, massive reversal. Back in 2018, after a big employee protest over a military project, Google publicly promised it wouldn't build AI for weapons. Fast forward to today, and they have AI and running inside the Pentagon, serving over 1 million users.
So you have this system of quiet partnership between Silicon Valley and the Pentagon. And it worked great for a long time. But eventually, that quiet relationship blew up into a very dramatic, very public confrontation. It really brought the hidden stakes of all this out into the open. To really get how high the stakes are, check out this scenario that national security analysts have mapped out. The speed is just staggering. It starts with the Pentagon giving a top AI company, Anthropic, a 72-hour ultimatum. Get rid of your ethical guardrails or else. When they refuse, the government immediately blacklists them as a supply chain risk. And on the very same day, hours later, their main rival, OpenAI, announces a huge new deal with the Pentagon. It wasn't a negotiation, it was a punishment and a replacement, all in less than 3 days.
Anthropic really stood its ground. They refused to remove their rules against using their AI for mass surveillance and, more importantly, for fully autonomous weapons systems. The kind that can kill without a human ever giving the final okay.
OpenAI, on the other hand, took the deal. Now, publicly, they said they had similar rules to Anthropic, but when they were asked to share the actual contract language that would enforce those rules, their national security chief's response was, and I quote, "I do not agree that I am obligated to share that with you." The message couldn't be clearer: you're just going to have to trust us.
Okay, so let's step back for a second. When you look at these three different stories, the impossible patents, the company the CIA helped build, and the company that was punished for saying no, a really clear operational pattern starts to emerge.
And this isn't some wild conspiracy theory, it's a documented, repeatable system that has basically shaped the last 30 years of tech and defense. It's a four-step playbook. Step 1, fund the academic research that becomes a commercial product. Step 2, use a revolving door of people moving between government and tech to share knowledge. Step 3, when there's a public backlash, retreat for a little while, then come back even bigger. And Step 4, make ethical promises when you're under pressure and then quietly break them when nobody's looking.
And that brings us to our final question. And honestly, it's the biggest, most mind-bending question of all. It connects that impossible physics from the very beginning of our story to the fundamental nature of reality itself.
And this whole tangled web, it all leads back to one man, a physicist who operated at the very center of this secret world.
John Archibald Wheeler. I mean, this guy was an absolute giant of 20th century physics. He worked at the highest levels of classified science, helping to design the hydrogen bomb. He saw with his own eyes what happens to matter and energy under the most extreme conditions humans have ever created.
Decades later, after a lifetime of work, after coining terms we all know like black hole, he came to this stunning conclusion that he called it from bit. He proposed that reality itself, every particle, every force, space-time, all of it, is fundamentally made of information. Just bits, zeros and ones.
And that leaves us with the ultimate question, doesn't it? What did John Wheeler see inside that classified world of physics, the same world those strange pies patents were trying to touch, that convinced him that our entire reality is built on information? And if that's true, do you think the people who first classified that physics would ever let you know?